When I talk about games, I primarily talk about gameplay dynamics. Within those dynamics exists the player, the antagonistic force of the game, whether they be enemies or levels, balance, and challenge. In fact, I talk about challenge a lot. After all, one of the primary ingredients in the game might even be the main one. I wax on and on about it very often. This leads people to misunderstand me and my beliefs and values. There is an assumption that I believe the challenge itself is the ultimate goal for a game to see. I don't fault people for having these assumptions, it can often come off this way, especially when I criticize a game for being too easy or lax, which happens often. I feel that I need to correct these assumptions, however, not only because they misunderstand me, but also because I believe challenge as a goal can encourage bad design and unlikable games. Challenge is many things. For one, it is communication between the player and the designer, an invisible, non-verbal form of conversation. The designer sets the rules and uses challenge to enforce them. You do something the designer does not want you to do, they fail you, game over. You do something the designer wants you to do, you pass. That's the gist. Using difficulty, there's a constant conversation happening. The designer is directly telling you what they intend for you to do without ever saying a word to you. The developer is guiding you down a path without you being aware of it. We are, of course, working with the assumption that during development, the designer has found the most engaging way to play the game, and therefore chose that way as the basis for winning, while the least engaging or undesirable ways to play would fail the player. Without challenge, there is no balance. No balance, there is no counterweight to actions. Without that, there is no tug of war, and therefore no dynamic. We can think of challenge as an instrument just as effective as not allowing the players to do something at all, within the code itself. Challenge is also a heightener of emotions. When we best a goal, we feel euphoria because of the stress the difficulty causes. When we fail, we feel frustration for the same reason. There are many other aspects of difficulty in a similar vein, so we can definitely say the challenge is the most versatile and vital tool in designer's toolbox. What challenge is not, however, is a goal all in itself. In fact, elevating it as the sole goal can have disastrous results. Let us take Doom for example. We can make the game harder by giving every enemy 10 times more health. We can make the game harder by forcing the player to control each foot with a separate key, and so on. All of these things would, without a doubt, make the game more challenging. But I think most people that have played Doom would know that it would not necessarily produce a very engaging dynamic. If you want, let's take a look at action games, and let's remove all hitstun from enemies. That's harder, but now the dynamic has shifted. From the ebb and flow of offense and defense, moments of tension and moments of release, to a dynamic of hit and run or a slugfest. Again, the more engaging dynamic is undermined and sublated by a worse one for the sake of challenge. Let's go into Ninja Gaiden 2 for example, and multiply Gigadeath, notoriously the worst boss in the game, by 10, and throw the player to fight all of them. The examples are endless, and can apply to every single genre that uses failure in some type of way in its design. That is the dirty secret of challenge as a goal. You can make any game more and more challenging forever, infinitely. Let's make a game that is endlessly complex and so obtuse to the point that only one person in the world can do anything in it at all. I think everyone watching this video can agree that it sounds like a terrible idea. Well, if we take challenge as the sole goal, then that is the ultimate imperfect game. Nobody can play it. It is worth noting that these beliefs are usually not taken on consciously, and the people who espouse them don't really think about them much. They are also adopted in a way to defend bad design in games they like. So if prioritizing difficulty as the goal produces bad and confused design, what is good difficulty? And what actually is the goal in games? Well, the goal, one more important than challenge or anything else, is to elicit emotions, regardless of what those emotions are. The designer uses challenge as one of the tools to create dynamics that elicit these emotions. Killing an enemy as opposed to it being alive forever is easier, but it is a core aspect of the dynamic of many games. It is a puzzle piece of something that elicits an emotion in us, In this case, satisfaction for beating a foe. This does not mean challenge is not absolutely vital. Most developers neglect it and I'll continue to call it out and center its importance as a design instrument. It is heartbreaking to see an interesting dynamic undermined and unfulfilled due to a lack of difficulty, which unfortunately applies to majority of games. The last thing I want from this video is a viewer walking away thinking that high difficulty is not vital. With that disclaimer out of the way, what is good challenge? Well, there is no answer to that. It depends. Game designers are artists, they make decisions on what to focus on or how to do it, so there is no one set perfect difficulty. It all depends on the dynamic you are creating. If game design is a canvas and challenge is paint, they have to choose the color.